All right, my bows and bow ties. Let's see what's going on. I need to hook up my other camera. I mean, I keep saying, I have other equipment and I don't really use it. But all right, welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode with me. I'm the Black Opinionated woman, also known as the Bow. All right, maybe I should put my glasses on. It's still a little bright out here. And I'm on my deck and I've got these candlesticks, citronella sticks blowing in my face because I don't want to get eaten by the bugs. All right. So before I get on into it, you can see my little headband. Isn't that cute? I was at work today. People are like, "Yes, princess." I just spit. Oh my goodness. Everyone was coming up to me, and I forgot that I had put this headband on, and then they were like, "Yes, queen." And it was more white people than black people saying it. They're like, "Queen." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But anyway, yeah, I want to talk about this topic, the black men dying alone thing. Now, at first I was like, I really don't feel like having this discussion because, I don't like the whole gender war thing. But this was really interesting. And I'm going to talk about it today. So there were several things that happened that made me think I should have this conversation. One, a conversation I had with my mom. She had me laughing about something with my stepdad, right? They are hilarious. But I had seen some things on YouTube and I kind of like I didn't look at it a whole lot. I gave it like a little bit of attention, not much, not enough for it to resonate a whole lot with me. But then I was sitting at work today and I had glanced at something on YouTube while I was doing something I had multiple monitors and I was working on something I happened to hear in the background. Um, I forgot what it was. I think it was Black Men Are Dying Alone or something like that. And so I'm like, what is going on? It was Boyce Watkins. Now, I'm not a big Boyce Watkins fan, but there's some things he talks about that I'm like, all right. Now, I had unsubscribed to him a long time ago. I think it was on Twitter because he was saying some things that I thought were just a little too much. And then he had his little scandal. But anyway, let me just put up the thumbnail that I'll upload once I'm done with this. There it is. Black men are they dying alone? This is what, for those of you who are not looking at this live with me, this is the thumbnail that you have selected to get into this. All right. So let me just say this. Let me put that off to the side for a little bit. I'm going to start off with the whole Boyce Watkins thing. He was talking about how black men are like dying alone for a variety of reasons. And so I'm listening to this. I'm like, so this must really be a thing. I mean, I guess because I haven't given it much thought, but it took me back to a conversation I had with my mom. Now, and I'll reference that in a minute. I listened to some of his message today, and I was like, interesting. I'm like, 'cause I don't even like to listen to Boyce Watkins all that much. So at this point, I had reached out to a couple of my male buddies. One that was sitting not too far away from me, and another one that I hit up in a chat function. And I was like, I was explaining what I had listened to and some of the things he said. And it shocked me from black men. The blackity black men were like, yes. I was like, whoa, wait, all the way, wait a second. Wait a second. Now look. So as we're having this conversation, I was talking with my one coworker, and he was like, "You do realize there are like a whole bunch of black men. Now this is a black man that don't want to grow up." I was like, "What?" Now let me just caveat this because I know people are going to probably go in. He's not married to a black woman. He is aware of his blackness, but he is also he grew up in an area that had a lot of like multicultural relationships, but he seems to be in touch with his blackness. You see what I'm saying with these bugs out here in these streets. But it was interesting. He said, because he's got a whole black family and all sort of stuff, like as far as like his extended family that he loves very much. And he said there's a lot of them out here who don't want to grow up. They want to continue to run the streets and some other stuff. So I can see that as you get older. I must apologize. To my left, my neighbors are getting a pool put in. So there's some construction going on. So there's trucks that are trying to leave for the day and everything like that. So anyway, so he's having this conversation and he's talking about how a lot of men black men in particular. Now he's going by some of the things that he's seen in his family and his relationships or whatever, right? He's talking about how, when I say relationships, I mean relationships to other men, not with men. And he was talking about how, he's like, yeah, you see it all the time. And it was one of those things that I was like, as we were having this conversation, I go back to my desk and I chat my buddy. I chat my buddy. And I said, black men are dying alone. They're dying alone. He goes, yup. Now, this is a black man who has black children. He's actually not married. I think he's planning on maybe getting married again one day, but whatever. He said, now this man is in his early 50s, and he said, absolutely. Absolutely. He said, you know how many people I know who are continuously running through women? Now, I'm expecting for black men to defend black men. But instead, these guys, now I'm just naming these two. There was other conversations I had. They were holding them accountable. And I was like, are they really dying alone? And he's like, yep, you know how many guys I know? He's like, look, there's so many of them running through men. And he mentioned how in his church, he said, my pastor stays talking about like how, you know, black men are dying alone. He said he gives this speech, or he didn't use those exact words, but he said he gives this speech every year. I was like, what? Are you serious right now out here in these streets? He's like, yes. Yes. He's like, this. I know so many men who are married and they got the side pieces. You got the ones who don't want to get married at all and a whole bunch of stuff. But he was talking about all these behaviors, trying to keep up, trying to keep with a younger woman, playing games. I was like, and there's some other stuff he said. And I'm like, I hear these things, but sometimes I'm thinking, okay, is it just where you're located or whatever? But he's like, no. So he's telling me about the sermon, I guess, that they have about how there's so many men as they're getting older, now they're alone. And I know men who are single, okay, and they don't want to get married. I know someone who gave a woman a ring, but it was a shut up ring, and they are no longer together now. It's like, you're just going to be a bachelor forever. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to marry her. I'm like, well, why waste her time? Okay. So then I want to circle back to the conversation I had with my mother. My mother, we were talking not too long ago, and she was telling me about her friends. And she was telling me about the one guy who I will not name, who is not doing well. All right. He's not doing well. And, you know, my mom and my stepdad, I just say my dad because he's been in my life for so long. My father is deceased. They're a mess. My stepdad, he's funny. Now he's from Mississippi. Okay. So even his whole vibe is different, but he's been in the North for so long that I think most of that is left. But they were having a conversation about how this particular individual has messed around on so many women. They ran through women. Now, this is my stepdad saying too, ran through so many women. They were so what word I want to use, like when you superficial, all this other stuff. Treated people really bad. Had children, doesn't have a good relationship with the children. And now this person has fallen ill. And I don't know how long this person's going to be here on this side of the grass, maybe another year or two. I don't know. I don't want to speak about somebody's situation, but I'm just going by what has been relayed to me. But what was so interesting, now that's not the part that you hee-haw at. It's the other stuff. Now that he is dried up, gotten older, he wants somebody to take care of him. Nobody wants to be bothered. All the people he ran through are like, they have nothing for him. And so he started hitting up my parents with like, tell so-and-so to give me a call. I was like, what? So when I was telling the person on my job about this, he was like, what are we in high school? Like, what? This is the kind of stuff that they're talking about, right? And he's talking about like That's what happens. And I remember after all this, I remember when I was talking to my mom, I have dubbed this hot dog gate. Homie can't cook. He can't make a single meal. I'm like, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. Now, my mom is recounting this story. The way she recounts it, and maybe because we just have a crazy sense of humor, there is humor. So she's got me on over here because I'm like, wait, mom, what? Wait, what's going on? And she's like, yeah, so now he's sitting over there starving, refuses to make food for himself. So my dad or my stepdad, he's calling him like, look, man, look. All I need you to do is go ahead and put some water in a pot. Boil the hot dogs for all I can. Just boil some hot dogs. Get yourself a can of beans and open up the can of beans. I was like, he can't make hot dogs and beans. I mean, like everybody can make hot dogs and beans. You can't make a tuna fish sandwich. You can't put a whole chicken in the oven. So anyway, they're telling me this story. They're recounting like he is so down and out, like broke, busted, and disgusted. Oh, that's another thing. He's broke. Didn't do right by his money. So, my mom was telling me about her friend. She did well by her money and all sorts of stuff like that, right? But he didn't do right by his money. And now he has no money, no one to take care of him, can't cook, can't do anything. And now he's ill. It needs someone there. And there's no one there. There is no one there to support this individual. So where am I going with this? I was thinking, all right, maybe this is onesies and twosies. But between my mom, the guy at my job, the guy I hit up in chat, and then some other people, and then I believe my sister one time, she's a nurse. She was like, it's not pretty in these hospitals. The people who are there alone, I'm like, I don't know what to say. And you know what? It makes me wonder, right? Because now I don't want to like go in on our black men, but sometimes we gotta call it like a thing. Because I don't like to be the great caper, but at the same token, I don't like to not call a thing a thing. I think about how when men continuously remain single, like because they want to play games, not because of a circumstance. It's like a whole bunch of stuff, right? I feel like at what point do you bring water to the desert? At what point do you bring water to the desert instead of roaming in the desert? Because at some point you're gonna get thirsty, right? And I was thinking about how like maybe this was I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 years ago. I was at work. It was on a different contract, and I can't I can't even believe this when I'm gonna say you. I was talking with this guy, black guy, tall, big guy, used to play basketball. I think maybe overseas. I don't know, whatever. He played in college or something. In his mind, he was everything. Now, this guy wasn't an ugly guy, but he was big and he was big, like meaning he was tall and he was out of shape, back in my fitter finding younger days, because now I can use a couple of pounds too, but I still look manageable, but I got a couple gobbles going on. This guy, I can't believe this. In his delusional mind, back in my fitter finer younger days, not that it matters because I am a fully married woman. I remember I was sitting next to him. I had to get some information. It was on it was a cross domain solution. For those of you who know, you know what it is. Anyway, so I was asking some information about a cross domain solution. Um and he paused and he opened up a drawer. This Bama says, hey, if you look in there, now he was joking, but he was serious. Hey, I'm taking applications for side pieces. I, I was like, I couldn't even believe he said it at first because I don't know. I've just never heard anyone say anything like that before, right? So, homie was like, yeah, I'm taking applications for side pieces. Now, in this moment, I'm sitting here stunned because in my mind, I'm thinking cross domain solutions. He's, and I'm thinking, what about my demeanor lets him think that that's okay? Because now we've worked together before. Now, so it's not like he's like a complete stranger. But what about me? I'm just trying to think, like, why was he even that comfortable Not that I'm going to blame myself for his actions. And then I was thinking, what did I do? Like, I had gaslit myself. I'm like, why would you even, first of all, think that one, I'm like married, so why would you even think that's appropriate? Number two, you clearly think I'm a walking dum dum, right? Like you clearly have no respect for me. Three, you're delusional because you're big, and I'm not. Oh my gosh, like it was just wrong on so many levels. And I'm like, and this is the reason why I'm like, you're playing all these games. You don't want to kick your wife to the curb, but you kind of do, and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, you've got some nerve. When I listen to other people, and I was listening to the one guy I know who's like, yeah, I'm not really trying to marry this chick. I'm just gonna give her this shut up ring. I don't care. I'll just drop this amount of coin on it and be done with it. And I was like, that's an expensive, like, there's just so many things. Anyway, where I'm going with that, I'm like, I think the reason why men are doing these things, they're going out, they're having these treacherous like relationships, these toxic relationships. They are not 100%. Let me rephrase that. They can't do it alone if they are allowed to do it. But women are not at fault for another person's actions. Does that make sense? So he the man is responsible for his own actions, but he is allowed to do these things because women are allowing for men to do these things. But the interesting thing about this dying alone concept, when you talk to other people, for what I've seen on the internet and I'm talking to family members, and I'm just bringing up one story that my mom was telling me about hot dog gate because homie was just like, I'm just so hungry, so very, very hungry. And they're like, if you don't go get yourself some hot dogs and some beans or something, like, because like my family, like they're gonna cook, but if you don't know how to cook, he's like, well, at least you could do is get yourself some hot dogs and beans, right? I think outside of that, when I listen, I'm listening to women talk about how and women and men. It's been consistent. It was not like a bunch of women just bashing men because some of the women are like, now see, this is what he gets. The thing that they were saying is that with women who are single, and I'm hearing this consistently, women typically are the ones who take care of the children, even though a lot of the children lose their mind, but like, it's your fault that I don't have a dad. Don't even get me started with that. But women are the ones who are taking care of the children. They're the ones who are putting the roofs over their head, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're the ones who are basically pregnant because it typically falls on the woman anyway for child rearing. When a woman gets older, she typically plugs in, whether she's in some sort of sorority, whether she's in some sort of organization, a civic organization, whether it's the church, whether it's a family unit, her friends, etc. And what happens is women check in with each other. And from what I understand is a lot of these men, when they run through these women, the chickens come home to roost. And so what happens is you weren't present in the children's lives or whatever, or you weren't a very good person in their lives for whatever reasons. So what happens is people aren't there for you. So now getting back to hot dog gators, I'm gonna call him hot dog man. I asked my mother, I said, well, can't he just contact his children? He said, well, let me tell you the story about. He has a couple of children. I think he hasn't had a conversation with his son in years. And apparently he ran into his son at a wedding and his son looked right through him because he doesn't have like a relationship. Like, I mean, they had a relationship, but not really, right? And then I think the daughter, I think finally capitulated, doesn't even care for the dad. It was like, I guess you probably could stay here. I don't know. Anyway, the point I'm making is I'm hearing this consistently. A lot of these men either didn't have a relationship with their kids and now they don't want to be bothered with them. They don't have a significant other. They're not plugged into a church or to a fraternity, or maybe they are. I don't know. The point is, they're ending up in these facilities or at home alone, dying alone. Now, we already know about He Who Shall Not Be Named, who passed a few months ago with an alleged nurse slash hooker slash girlfriend slash fiance. I don't know. Pick your name because I've heard some of the commentary on that, right? Pick which one. I don't really care. But in essence, he was alone. They're talking about how black men are not only just dying alone, but they're broke, busted, and disgusted. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, black men? I'm like, y'all need some help. You need some counseling? What is going on? I hate to hear them going out like that. I mean, I'm laughing because there's a level of humor with hot dog man. Like when you got my stepdad, like, look, man, I'm gonna need you to pour some hot dogs. I'm like, hot dog gate is in. Like it was a case of the missing hot dogs. Like, homie could not. He was like, I gotta boil water and then put the hot dogs in the pot. I was just like, oh my goodness. People, black men are really dying alone. And you know, when you listen to what they say, like the studies are showing that like there is an increase in black men ending up in these facilities. Now, I have not confirmed the data. Okay. Hold on. Let me go ahead. Where's my little banner so I can just put everything's alleged or something? These are just my opinions. I have not confirmed such information. However, comma, what I have heard consistently from just talking to people, now I just named a few, it's been consistent from men and women. I was like, what? They were like, yes, especially back in that time frame. They said, yes, men were just doing what they want. They like it was the men that were holding them accountable. They were like, yeah, like dudes are just corny. Like at some point, don't you want to settle down? I was like, what? I'm just sitting here like, are they really dying by themselves? They were like, yes. Now I just named one scenario. My mom told me of another scenario, like all these scenarios. And I was thinking of some of her friends. She's got married friends and some who were single, right? And like there was a group from when back in her days, a whole bunch of them, men and women, like that's like a huge group. And once again, when I was listening, and she was just telling me because I'm not going to tell you what the nickname is. The nickname of this group is so hilarious and shady, right? The women support each other. They call each other up. If somebody's not well, they bring them food or whatever. They get together. They go out to lunch. They take trips together, right? For the most part, some of them have their money together, some of them don't. The men don't. They're broke. They can't make any food. They are by themselves. Now they want somebody to come over and holler at them, and people are like, look, maybe if there's a group thing, I might bring you a plate, but they're like, I'm not checking for this guy. I'm like, this is just so sad. But when I think about the men who are doing these things, well, I'm like I said, I'm not co-signing their behavior, but what I will say is they had some willing participants. You had women out there allowing for men to behave in manners that are just unpalatable. Like they just let them do whatever they want because they didn't have a strong enough constitution about themselves. They were in a state of desperation or whatever. So the women allowed for a lot of the shenanigans. I'm not saying it's the woman's fault that men did these things. Like I said, you can't hold women accountable for what a man does, but you can hold them accountable for being a participant, right? But nevertheless, women will check in with each other. I think about right now. One of my dearest girlfriends from high school is going through something, and I check in on her. I check in with her often because that's just what we do. I'm like, "What do you need? You want me to come over?" She's like, "No, no, no." I'm like, "Look, I'll be there." And well, right now she's not in a position to do certain things because she's going through a really tough time. It's a really, really tough time. She's got a lot going on. But if I called her up and I said, "Hey, how much wood could a woodchuck chop?" She's like, "What time you want me to come? When are you gonna be home?" I don't know. I just feel like the shenanigans of it all. This is what I will say about the black men dying alone. And I'm hearing this over and over again. Like, I didn't know this was like a thing. And it could just be because maybe I'm isolated within my own bubble. But I just was like, wow. My mom and my stepdad, now I don't always talk to my stepdad because he's too busy watching, his sports on TV. But my mom was running down story. She's like, "Oh yeah, well, so and so, well, yeah, he's by himself too. Now he's all old and played out." That's what my mom says. He's old and played out now, so nobody is, blah blah blah. I just thought it was just hilarious because nobody's contacted me. Okay. So yeah, I was just kind of like, really? She was like, oh yes, he's another one, blah blah blah. We tried to hook him up with so many times, but he was after all this superficial stuff. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. Now back in the day, my mom was fine, so I knew somebody was gonna snatch her up. But my whole big thing was after hearing all these stories and then listening to black men talk about these things. And they're laying out some of the same things over and over. My one buddy was telling me about how he's like, you've got people who are just like, they're still trying to be players. Like, what? He's like, and then he said, and this is the thing, you've got some of them out here who aren't even in shape, but they think they can still pull young women. They're still trying to hold on to this youth. And he's like, goes back to what the other guy I was talking to today. He's like, they haven't grown up yet. They're like boys. And I'm just sitting here like, black men, I need y'all to get it together. I don't want y'all to die by yourselves. I'm like, what is going on? I don't know. I'm just sitting here like, I don't want to say stunned, but it must have been serendipitous for me to put something on. And I turned away and I'm like clicking and a clacking and a clacking and a clicking. And I'm listening. I'm like, who is this talking? I don't even know what I selected. I just selected it. It was Boyce Watkins. I side eye that Joker sometimes. That's why I don't really listen to him too much. But yeah. So of course, if you select one thing in YouTube, right, that something else comes up. Like you select one thing, you get 20, right? Kind of like how I got on that transgender thing. Select one thing, I got like a bunch of things, and all the questions I have, half of them are still never answered. you know so you select on one thing, then you get a whole bunch of like black men are dying alone, or are black men dying, or what, I forget exactly what it was, but you get the point, right? And I was like, well, okay, well, that topic obviously is curated, but for me to bring that up to people, and they were like, yeah, yeah, black dudes were like on it, like bam. I was like, whoa, this is like a thing. Now it could have just been the ones I was talking to, but they're like, yeah, dudes are just out here being silly. And they're like, when you see people like that, because I'm sitting there thinking, like, how do you even have time to be productive if you're still trying to be a player, doing silly things? I don't know. It's just me. That's just me. Those are just my thoughts. Anyway, yeah. So the dude that had given me this whole like, I'm taking applications for side pieces. I, I can't even tell you how super insulted I was that someone would think, can you see me? That someone would think that, what is wrong with our community? And this is why so many people are alone. They have all of these expectations for people. And I feel like people aren't being introspective. When I listen to people who are single and it's like everybody's at fault, I'm like, well, then clearly you're part of the problem because you're not introspective. What are you doing? Look, it's hard out there in those streets, right? In these streets. Now, granted, I haven't had to date in a really long time. And my husband, he already knows he can't die. He can't spontaneously blow up because I would not function out here in these streets. Based off of the shenanigans that people are telling me, I'm like, I guess I'm just going to have to get some more cats. I already have one cat. And I'll just be the cat lady. I'm like, you think I care? I'm like, I don't want the headache. Then on top of that, I probably have to go drop some vanity pounds and do my hair. Anyway, I'm just sitting here like, black men, y'all are dying alone. Get it together. Y'all are dying alone. No one's going to the doctors, getting their blood pressure checked. No one's eating right. I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? I don't know. Oh, that's so good. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I see there's a couple of people watching. If you want to come up and leave a comment or say something, you're more than welcome. I should probably post the. I never post the invite. Let me see. Let me see if people want to come up here. Oh, this thing is just a blowing. How do I do this? Can y'all see this? If you want to come up, let me know. But anyway, that's it. I mean, I don't see people pop in the next like 20, 30 seconds, and I'm gonna get off of this app. But yeah, I'm just like, what is going on? Why are people dying by themselves? And why do we want to still continue to? It's kind of like I said, it's like going out in the desert and you're not bringing any water. At what point do you think I need to bring water? Because you're gonna get thirsty. You're gonna want companionship. You're gonna want something, right? All right. I was originally supposed to do a live. Let me tell you what I was gonna do, and I still may do it. I was gonna do a live on something not too serious. And I had written these things down. I was talking with a buddy of mine at work, and we were gonna just what were we supposed to call it? I forgot what it was supposed to be called. It's supposed to be called something like I forgot what it's gonna be called. Inquiring minds want to know. I don't know, whatever it is. We were just gonna just like debate the dumbest stuff. Like one of the ones that came up was I have about 16 of them. Why is it that black people get mad that no one knows the black national anthem, but then we don't even know all the words? I can get through the first verse and half of the second verse. Or what's better, spades versus dominoes? We were gonna just debate it. What's better, spades versus Midwest? Biggie versus Pac? Do you say dressing or stuffing? On and on. There's so much I was gonna go through. Pepsi or Coke? We were just gonna do a lighthearted get down with the get down situation, and then I decided not to. I decided we were gonna talk about why black dudes are dying alone. Anyway, I may come back on because I also wanted to do another one on transgender women, or just the trans people in general. But oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even see this. Hello, sorry. I have been listening. Thanks for sharing the interesting stories about dying alone. It's scary from both sides, indeed. Of course it is. Let me tell you something. I don't want to die alone. And I told my husband he's going to die at the same time as me. So, I mean, that's just where I'm at with it. And I choose to live in a state of delusion. But what I will say is my husband or myself, as far as I know, our children, we're loved by children. We have siblings, you know, friends or whatever it is. So, should something happen, well, you don't want anything to happen at this stage, right? Because I wouldn't want my children to be traumatized. But I don't believe I'll be alone. But to be alone in a hospital, this citronella, this is what I'm burning here. These sticks are killing me. To be in a hospital or to be home, it's like no one's checking on you, no one cares, no one wants to give you any food, no one. It's like mind boggling to me. But I'm hearing this multiple times, and like if you do a search out there, you'll find it. Black men are dying alone, and my understanding is that is the largest growing demographic of people who are ending up in these like facilities, and they have no family, nothing. But hey, they ran the streets and they hoard out, right? It's like this is just too much. But okay, I'm gonna get off of here because I think I said all I needed to say. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, look, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I know you guys have heard all this stuff before. Go ahead and subscribe because I'm amazing in every way and can do no wrong. Go ahead and like the video. Let me tell you the reason why all these things are important. Liking it, subscribing, sharing it, saying something in the comments, or watching or seeing these all the way through. I call it the 5 S's. When you do these things, it tells the algorithm she's amazing and everybody enjoys her content. And then what they do is they recommend it to other people. So subscribe, share, see it, say something in the comments, and show your support by liking it. All right. I'm going to get off this thing and get my life together. Thank you for watching.